Harry's wife. Why does she target young people? Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. You should know from my work by now that the moment you come up on a narcissist radar for the first time, that you then enter the narcissist fuel matrix. So, for instance, if you were to send an email to somebody who is a narcissist, even though you may not realize that they are, when your email is sent to that individual, you come upon the narcissist radar, and the narcissism, either, for the most part, subconscious and occasionally, from an aware perspective, the narcissist then has to bring you under control. The content of your email might denote that you're already under control because you're agreeable, you're complimentary. And then the narcissism has to determine, does it want something more from you, more fuel, more character traits, residual benefits, or is it content just to accept that you are under control and therefore take nothing more from you? That's why in some instances you could message a narcissist and receive no response. In some instances, of course, you present as a particularly appealing prospect. Therefore, the narcissist wants more from you, not content for you to be a tertiary source, but rather to advance you into a position of a secondary source, and in some instances, of course, becoming that primary source. The basis on which this is done is to apply multiple manipulations against you. Sometimes they can be malign from the beginning, but more usually the narcissist functions to be benign, to pour honey on you, to trickle sugar in your ear, to draw you in by flattering you, complimenting you, making you laugh, buying you something, taking you somewhere, just generally being decent, supportive, perhaps very quickly giving you some delicious, sexy time. However, the narcissist targets different individuals for different purposes, albeit all are linked to the prime aims. Harry's wife is no different. Her narcissism causes her to have to control people, to draw fuel from them, to gain those character traits and those residual benefits. But often she focuses on young people, and this is for two reasons. The first is that as a consequence of the delusion that her narcissism functions through, she believes that she's a peer of those individuals. She believes that she's in her mid-20s still rather than mid-40s, believing herself to be some 20 years younger than she actually is. This, of course, is part of the delusion of the narcissist, that sense of grandiosity. It's also linked to the idea of being able to live forever within a particular time frame. For some narcissists, those 20s are the ones that are selected, when energy levels are high, when youthful looks are radiant, when the ravages of age are not present. And therefore the narcissist is almost stuck within that time period, believing themselves to always be in eternal 20s. Fresh of face, energetic, starting out on life's exciting path. Of course, tastes change decade upon decade in terms of music, film, art, television, the people that are looked up to, the fashions, or fashion, in Harry's wife's case. But narcissists of that ilk, including Harry's wife, cling on to being that age because there is a sense of longevity with it. And by character trait acquisition, by believing that she is hip to the groove daddy-o, that she's down with the kids, her narcissism causes her to believe that she's younger than she actually is, extending her longevity, extending her sense of relevance. And it's all part of a character trait acquisition to essentially create that picture in the attic, to make the narcissist feel at the peak of their powers in terms of strength, physical strength, mental acuity, the measure of their looks, fertility also, many things which are heightened in the 20s. The other reason why Harry's wife's narcissism causes her to target young people is a matter of control. In broad brush terms, younger people are easier to control. They've less life experience. They're less cynical. They are less likely to query what she says because they don't have a raft of life experience that may well dictate the word salads that she comes out with. Her narcissism makes her believe that she is still ever young, like that audience, and she attempts to mirror them, whilst acquiring those character traits, and at the same time finds that this is an audience which is easier for her to control. Easier with regard to those tertiary sources and some secondary sources to nullify the potential threats to control and moreover keep control over them. It's easier for her to do that. And she believes that she's like those young people, hence the anachronistic references that she makes. The fact that, in effect, she talks to them as if she's friends with them when she's some 20 years older than them. She, of course, doesn't see any problem with that. She believes that she is far younger. She believes that these are her people because her narcissism compels her to believe it. But it is all linked to wanting to be what they are because it allows that longevity, and also because they are, in broad brush terms, seen as easier to control. They're less likely to question what she has to say. They're less likely to have experienced things which go against what nonsense she spouts. Their naivety, of course, is advantageous to her. Of course, there are disadvantages. Many of the young, of course, don't necessarily have the requisite wealth that she's looking for. They don't have necessarily the requisite power that she wants in terms of being chief decision makers at organisations and governmental level. Some do exist, but for the most part, those young people are still forging their way forward in terms of the acquisition of wealth, power, influence, and so forth. However, it also makes it very easy for her to talk in terms which are vague, to talk in terms of potential, to talk with that word salad, to talk about how those individuals are the future. It wouldn't surprise me if she came out with saying, "I believe that children are the future, teach them well and let them guide the way," purloining, of course, the words of Whitney Houston. The children are, or the young people, are malleable. They're there to be exploited by her and her narcissism. And, of course, the value that they have is that they are easier to control. They are more likely to pour with fuel, being more vocal in their appreciation or condemnation of things. They have higher energy levels, which allows them to provide greater fuel. Their character traits in terms of moral views, moral compass, wanting to save the world, their environmentally friendly credentials are also something that can be obtained by her. The residual benefits, well, certainly they help with the facade, and of course these individuals can all donate, can't they? They might not be running corporations themselves, but cumulatively, thousands upon tens of thousands upon hundreds of thousands of individuals collectively have significant purchasing power, which of course would be interesting to her. Her narcissism compels her to target young people, chiefly because she sees herself as one of them through the narcissistic delusion, and because they're easier to control, something her mid-range narcissism is desperate for. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.